Hi, how are you doing? This is Pastor Cheryl. It's a really muggy Saturday. Very hot outside. I think it's dangerous, so we're filming inside today. I wanted to get into this nature of discipleship, Matthew 8:18-22, and Luke 9:57 through 60. And so I will show it to you. And I did color it in so you could see the gaps. You could see where Matthew has kind of filled in Luke's gaps and added Quella. I will read it to you and see, because you could see the whole top of this is missing. Matthew's got it. There's kind of some gaps here. They both have that. There's a gap here. Then the bottom half of this is missing. Okay? And so we will see what both authors have got to say. We'll start with Matthew 8:18-22. Now when Jesus saw great crowds around him, he gave orders to go over to the other side. I think this is like a boat narrative. And the scribe came up and said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes, and birds have air and nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." In other words, he's homeless. He's going to follow him, but he's homeless. Okay? Another of his disciples said to him, "Lord, let me first go bury my father." But Jesus said to him, "Follow me and leave the dead bury their own dead." Okay. Now Luke has his own little story. Luke 9:57 through 60. And they were going along the road, and a man said to him, "I will follow you." Does the other one was in a boat going to the other side? This one is along a road. Same story. And they were going along the road. A man said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." To another he said, "Follow me." But he said, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father." But he said to him, "Leave the dead to bury their own dead, but as for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of God." Okay. But for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of God. In other words, he's telling him, just go ahead and go and proclaim the kingdom of God. I think it's interesting where he says the foxes have got the holes and the birds have got the nests, but he has nowhere to lay his head. In other words, he's homeless. I'm wondering how much that disturbed Jesus to be a homeless person. We see a lot of homeless people in our nation, and recently our president has outlawed homelessness. So if people are living, like, in their van or RV, I don't think the RV is too bad, they could be arrested. They could be arrested. And it was an idea to get these homeless people into some sort of therapy and into housing. Some people like on the road sort of thing. The tiny house. You pull it behind you. You build a house on wheels, and you pull it behind your truck, and you park it somewhere. I don't think that's that bad. It's living off the grid. Excuse me. There's a lot of freedom to that. Jesus didn't even have a little tiny house that was off the grid, okay? He was sleeping outside or in a tent or something, and he and his buddies roughed it, and there's that climate there in the Mideast is kind of temperate. You could do that. You could be outside. and kind of enjoy the outdoors. And it might go from being kind of cool to hot, like it is today. It's supposed to be 91 out there today. And it's important to note that our president has outlawed homelessness to get who they can into some sort of therapy, because a lot of them are mentally ill and a lot of them are mentally handicapped. And a lot of them I have met when I was bringing hot cocoa to the homeless people in the shelter about a block from where I used to live downtown Davenport. I had a really nice apartment down there. It was lovely. And it was in a very old Civil War building. And so anyway, I felt sorry for these people because the shelter would make them stand outside in the cold in the wintertime with the wind coming off the river, the Mississippi River. It would come off the river and blow at them. You know, the wintertime to about 9 o'clock at night. I'm serious. 9 o'clock at night, then they let them go on upstairs. And we just thought that was terrible. I even saw an East Moline cop bring someone to their shelter. And he stopped and got someone out of the car and said, I came to bring him to the shelter. And I'm discovering there's no real shelter. What on earth are they doing here? They make them stand outside. And he was angry about it. He was angry about it. Conversely, the city of Davenport has refused to do anything about the homeless situation because they said that the church, the Catholic Church, does a better job. And like we have a Humility of Mary, and they have bought up houses. And we're putting people in those apartments that they had purchased and had like 2-year contracts, and after 2 years then they move elsewhere. And I had a friend that was in a situation like that with her and her little son, and she thinks that she got that apartment. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. It was very nice because she had a small son, and she said if she did not have that little boy, she would have been out in the cold because people were doing things just for that little boy. And the little boy's grown up now. So anyway, that is something to think about and to comment on. Here we got the nature of discipleship. A lot of these people, I remember giving hot cocoa and hot tea in little Dixie cups and pouring it for them and just kind of running over there with my high heels and a coat and it all wrapped up and just here, we'll keep you guys warm, and I would pour this hot cocoa and hot tea for people. And then we'd have to remember to pick up the little Dixie cups. Otherwise, King's Harvest would have a fit of littering. Some seemed okay until you got to know them. And one fellow, I thought, what is he doing here? I don't understand. He should be working. He started a fist fight with a very old man. Wanted to beat up an old man. What on earth? Yeah. You know, some people are just, mentally ill. Mentally ill. So you get mentally ill people, subnormal, mentally disabled, and sometimes you get a combination of both in the same person. Depressives. People are just manic depressives up and down. And you get a combination of that and all in one group of people. And it was sad. And a lot of these people are chronically homeless. Some have been homeless for years. At the back of our meditation garden, we have allowed some homeless people just to sit back there. There's a table. You'll see that in one of my videos. There's just a table where they just want to sit. And as long as they don't pitch a tent, the city can't touch them. They can sit there underneath big trees that are going to shelter them from the weather. These are like a thick canopy up there. When it rains down there, the rain doesn't come through. It'll eventually drip through. I've been in there before doing something, and it poured down rain, just big storm, kaboom, and looked around me, and it was pouring. And I was dry inside that meditation garden because of that thick canopy of tree leaves and branches. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. We still have it, and we're keeping it until we get too old to really take care of it. It just becomes a burden or too much. And then it'll go to one of the area black churches that has no land, no meditation garden. There's a couple of them up on the hill. They would appreciate that. And we, meantime, have given them permission to go down there and sit and use it. And if they want, they can have a picnic down there. And they thank us. Thank you so much. They're so generous of you, And I just think it's a pretty spot. It should be used. We put a lot of work and effort into that. As a group of elderly people, we put a lot of work into it to make it pretty. Right now, the pink surprise lilies are blooming. What a display. So beautiful. We're going to have a wedding down there soon. And we had a wedding about 3 years ago down there. And so we try to keep the place really pristine. Nice. And after the rapture, it'll still exist. And the Christians can meet down there because a lot of churches will just close. And who remains can go down there. And we're expecting a virus, some major virus. And some people have the need to go to a church, they can go down there and sit behind the cross. They can do that. So they'll still have a chapel, a church to go to. It just will be a chapel that God made and not humans. So anyway, that is the brunt of that. I will write down the scriptures for you. It'll be written for you. And you'll see it written there, on the screen. Give it a thumbs up. And ring the little bell, subscribe, and we'll see if we can get this channel going. I'll see ya. Bye-bye.